everybody, this is Paige from Mosaic Moments, and today I am doing a demo of the 4x4 and 2x4 Horizon die set. And this set comes with a die that helps create the inner part of the circle. This die creates the outer edges, and there's a layering die that goes with it because that outer edge piece is a little bit too big for a 4x6 photo, so we provided a layering die. This is the 2x4 Horizon die. This also makes part of your circle, the inner and outer part, and it lines up with the 4x4 Horizon pieces. And there's also this little die that helps you fill in that small space on the 2x4 die. All right, now that you have been introduced to the dies, let's go ahead and get started. To use the Horizon dies, you will of course need a die machine. I'm using the Sizzix Big Shot, and first I'm making the outer edge, and this die has kind of squared off edges, so just so you know, make sure when you're creating the outer edge you have the die that looks bigger. I accidentally used the smaller layering die before, and so before I had a whole sheet of pattern paper. So try not to mix those up once you start using them. The bigger die with the smaller die has pointier edges than this one. So just keep that in mind and don't mess up like I did earlier. And I have this die. Well, I have the piece of paper, cut it slightly bigger than the die itself, and then I put the die in the machine at an angle. We find that placing the dies in at an angle helps distribute the pressure of the machine and gives you a better cut. And this is what that piece looks like. And as you can see, I use a pattern paper, so that'll look really nice in the end once that's finished. Now I'm going to cut with that filler piece that fills the top part of the 2x4 Horizon die. It's really nice. As you can see, it's really tiny. So this piece is nice, especially if you're using pattern paper, because you don't have to waste a lot of paper to use that particular die. All right, so I just cut a piece, again, that's a little bit bigger than the die itself. And yes, this set only comes with one of these, so you can only cut one at a time. But you'll only need 4 of these cuts to make a whole Horizon design. All right, so here's a little piece. So I'm going to be cutting with this die and the previous die I just showed 4 times, and that'll help create the outer edges of my Horizon die circle. Now I'm going to place the outer edges on the grid paper. So basically I have my glue here. This is the Herma Dotto dispenser. I put some on each corner and then a little bit in the center of it looks pretty much like a triangle shape there. And I placed it so it sits right on top of that top and left line of the area I want to place it on. And as you can see, there's the section next to it that needs to be filled in with the other portion of the 4x4 die, and same here. I'm placing the little piece on the grid lines, and then of course I need to fill in the rest of that rectangular area with the rest of that Horizon die as well. Anyway, if you are not familiar with the Horizon dies, I recommend checking out our video about the Horizon dies. I have that link in the top right corner, so go check that out if you're not familiar with the Horizon dies. But pretty much the entire collection creates a shape like this one, where in the end you should have a circle shape, a very large circle shape on your layout. So this is what the 4x4 and 2x4 look like together. All right, now I'm going to cut my photos, which will be the inner part of the circle. And you definitely want to plan beforehand and make sure your subject fits within this area. It can be a little tricky because sometimes you have a photo you think might look perfect in that particular direction, then it's not quite right. So in this photo, she's pretty far away and she was able to fit in there pretty well, but I did have to take my time and look through my photos and see which photos work in particular directions, because this die, you have to fill it in each direction basically. So you have to make sure you have photos that'll work with each direction. And I'm also going to be using the layering size die on this same photo as well. So I'm going to show you a couple of different ways you can use the layering die. So if you want to use the layering die on the same photo, you want to make sure that there's enough room for your first cut I placed the first cut partially in a way so there's room for the layering die as well. So that's something to keep in mind. All right, so I have this piece, and now I'm going to use my layering die as well on the same photo. And as you can see, it will not line up perfectly. If you want the two pieces to line up perfectly, you will need a 5x7 photo. As you can see, it's just a little bit too big for that exactness, but you still can use the same photo. And like I said, it won't line up exactly, but that's okay. It still looks really good in the end. So, but I can still, if you feel like you don't want to waste your whole photo, this is a good way to go, is just using the layering size die for that portion you did not use. So that is one way to use the layering die. All right, so I have these two pieces, and again, won't line up exactly, but it's still fun that it's from the same photo, and it kind of gives you an idea of what the area looked like. All right, let's go on to the next cut. All right, here is my next photo, and you'll see in a second here, I have the same die, but it's turned in a different direction. So again, you want to make sure right before you cut on your photo that the die is in the direction you want to place it on the layout. So that's why it's sometimes a good idea to have the outer part of the horizon die done first, so that way you know what kind of cuts you need. And I'm going to do the same thing as before. I'm going to cut first with this die and then use the layering die on the rest of the photograph. And again, she's really small, and you can see how she just fits in that one corner, basically. So it's really important to plan out your photographs before you start cutting. All right, and instead of pulling it off, I'm just going to go ahead and put the layering die on there as well. And you actually could probably cut the two dies at the same time if you want to take up less time cutting, so that's something to try out. If you do that, I do recommend using washi tape because the dies can shift and you don't want one accidentally pushing the other one out of the way or something. So, all right, so these are my two cuts. So I have that corner circle look and then that layering die, which doesn't line up 100%, but you can tell it's from the same photograph. So that'll look good on the layouts. All right, I'm going to get my third cut ready. And I sped up the video because I think you get the idea here basically. And if you've used Horizon Die before, this will pretty much be the same directions, just a different size basically. So if you're familiar with the Horizon Dies, this will work very similarly. Again, the sizing's just different. So now I have that corner. Now this time I'm not going to use the same photo, and sometimes you don't have your subjects placed in a spot where there's not any room for the layering piece. So you can also just grab another photograph. Here I just have some photographs of trees, and that'll be in that same section. I'm going to put that one photo of my dog, and I'm going to do it again with this photo. So again, I have my die turned the fourth direction that I needed, the last direction I needed to be on my layout. And again, my dog, she's pretty far away, but I really had to make sure she was going to fit in that particular direction that the die was going right here. And there wasn't enough room really to put in or to use the layering die. So I grabbed another photo here of some water, and that'll be nice. So you can use the layering die in the same exact photo, or you can get a totally different photo. So it all depends what your goals are for your layout. All right, now I'm going to cut with the 2x4 horizon die, and just like the previous die, I need to cut with this one in 4 different directions. So this is the first direction. So in this case, I have a horizontal photograph of deer. If you didn't see them, they're pretty small, so maybe you could see them. They're a little bit in the distance there. It was a great photo. They were sized perfectly for this die. So that's my first photograph. And my second one, it's going to be turned in the opposite direction. And what's neat is you can see I have a vertical photo here. This die just fits over that 4 inches there. And the photo didn't work for me going vertically, but then I saw, hey, I can turn it horizontally and you can see my finger and the frog really well there. So this is a great tip because you might have the same issue where you initially might think, oh, this photo might not work because it's not going the direction I need, but in the end, actually, it's just small enough that you can cut that smaller width. All right, now I'm going to get the vertical directions. So this will be placed on the bottom of my horizon die. She fit perfectly right in there. That's why it's important to have photos taken at a variety of distances. And what I like is that even though she's a little bit smaller in that photograph, and this one too, that her 2x4 horizon die, really puts more attention on the subjects. Even though they look small in the 4x6 size photo, when you crop, you can really focus in on your main subject. So I like the smaller cuts for that reason. All right, I have all my photos cut now, and so I'm going to start placing them along the outer edges here that are already glued down. Although there was a few I could not glue down because just like the other horizon dies, I wasn't able to put them directly on the grid line, so I had to get my inner part of the circle cut first. All right, now I'm placing on the top 2x4 die. So keep in mind you need two photos that can work in the horizontal direction, 2 for the vertical direction. But 2 of my photos, this one with the frog obviously was a vertical photo that I fit into the horizontal direction, and my top photo there was also a horizontal one, and I cut it to fit vertically. So I love that 2x4 die. So that is really helpful in some situations, depending on your photo. All right, now I'm placing on I guess we can call them the quarter rounds, or I don't know what they call them, but they will fill in the rest of the inner part of the circle here, except for that middle piece, which I will be placing on later. And this is why it's important to make sure you cut in all 4 different directions and make sure you cut your photo in the right direction, because you don't want to place it on your layout and you realize, oh no, my dog is sideways. So make sure you double check before you cut. And just like the 2 pieces before, I could not place that corner piece down because it would not line up on the grid paper. So I had to place the photo part on first. All right, so you could certainly keep the layout as it was, I should say, with just the pattern paper and it looked really good. Or you can place on the layering pieces, which is great if you want to show more of your photo that you cut or you want to show extra photos. And you can see it makes this awesome ring. Now you can make a ring with the other horizon dies. I do have a video about that. You can see that in the top right corner. But that is one where with the other ones you have to hand cut your photos down a little bit more to get the ring. So what is cool about the 4x4 horizon dies is that if you use the layering portions, you can get that ring automatically around your layout. And again, you get that effect when you use the layering dies. You don't have to have the layering dies on there. But that is one neat effect about the 4x4 set that you don't get with the other horizon dies. So it's pretty cool. All right, so with each of these pieces, I glue right on each corner. I say all the time, it's really important when you have any triangular shapes or shaped dies, basically, that you really glue down those corners really well, because I find they'll start sticking up. Although these ones would not be as bad as the really small triangular pieces you get in the adventure level dies. And that's why repositionable glue is very important, because sometimes you get it on there crooked and you have to change it. Alright, I obviously have to fill in my center also, which you can place any kind of 2x2 die there. I just went basic today and I used die set A and layering die set A to fill in that center to get an extra photo in there. So I think that looks really nice. Alright, this is the completed layout and I really like how it turned out. I really like the layering die option. The only other Horizon die set with the layering option is the 4x5 die, but the rest of them don't have a layering option. And I think it looks really nice with the pattern paper as an outer edge, which I could have just left it with the pattern paper. But also, I think my favorite thing about this layout is that you get that circle going around your photos. That is a really neat effect that, again, you don't get that quite as easily with the other Horizon dies. So this is a really cool die set. If you like the Horizon die collection, I think you definitely need to add this one to your personal collection of dies, because I think you will absolutely love it. So anyway, this is the end of today's demo. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.